Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of, you guessed it, Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we're going to answer the pressing question of should you open for Sage? I have a fairly strong opinion about this. I think we're also going to take a look at Legion, Living Tribunal, but first, we have huge news. Series drops have returned to Marvel Snap for the second time since they disappeared without warning. We have 7 cards dropping from Series 5 to Series 4, which doesn't change how you can get them in Spotlight, but makes them half price with tokens. Those cards are Jean Grey, Living Tribunal, Hercules, Selene, Gladiator, Nebula, and Silk. Start saving your tokens now. If you have all the Series 4 you want and you're saving tokens, don't buy Series 5 cards with tokens if you don't have these cards, because 5 of these cards are absolutely great. You really want Jean if you want to play that ongoing deck that I believe either Hoogland or Hoogland in combination with TLSG made. It's the ongoing Spectrum list that runs Jean Grey that's been running amok on the meta. Getting that card for 3,000 tokens is huge. Living Tribunal for 3,000 tokens opens up negative Tribunal, certain Phoenix Force lists, ongoing Tribunal, Hella Tribunal, and more. So getting that card on the cheap is absolutely stellar. Silk is a requirement for Silky Smooth decks, a card that you really want if you have Hope and Elsa and you're interested in playing those lists. And Gladiator and Nebula don't open up one deck. They are good stuff cards that are in an absolute ton of decks. Gladiator is required for Mill and Nebula for Lockdown. However, they are both just cards that are arguably best in slot and find their way into decks as powerful cards that you're constantly having to replace. Getting any two of those for the price of any one Series 5 is almost certainly worth it. Hercules and Selene are, at the moment, bad cards. You can skip them completely. Doesn't matter if they're Series 4 or not. But the other 5 are must-have. Jean less so than the others because that deck hasn't had the staying power. It might be great, but gonna need to see it do it for a little longer. The Series 4 to Series 3 cards are honestly much less impressive. I personally really like Martyr. I think Martyr is a very fun and powerful card. But she's hard to use, and her downside's really difficult, right? She's good with Ravonna and Professor X. She's good in an occasional Zoo build, but she's far from requirement. But once she's Series 3 and free, you won't be sad to have her. More or less the same thing is true of Silver Samurai, who occasionally finds his way into a meta deck. Our friend Ree's Random Bullshit Go deck features Silver Samurai, and he's really fun and powerful there, but he's not great. Lil Robitussin, our friend, who we've got a really cool deck for to feature sometime soon, has this Howard the Duck going into Series 3. Howard should have probably just started in damn Series 3. Howard had no business ever being Series 5. Again, a fun card in the occasional deck. FAK Crazy has Howard in a very fun, weird move control thing that I like a lot, but not a requirement. Mirage is in some Loki decks, but has been cut from 90% of those. And Echo is just a very good card, right? Echo is an occasional meta answer if that Jean deck is giving you trouble. Try adding Echo if you're sick of losing to Professor X. Try adding Echo. It's just a nice tech card, and I'm always happy when tech cards go to Series 3. These are not in the top 20. None of these are in the top 20 Series 3 cards that you should be targeting, but you're not sad to have just more cards that you can get for free without using spotlights, and the Series 5 to Series 4 are legit this time. I was really frustrated last time. I thought they only dropped bad cards. I think Gladiator and Nebula are great cards. I think Silk, Jean, and Silk and Jean are very good cards, and Tribunal is totally unique and great. So I think they did a really solid job with these Series 5 cards. I wish they had done a few more bad card series drops here, along with the good cards. But hey, at the end of the day, this is nothing but a plus for Marvel Snap players, especially because now more people will have access to more decks because Jean and Silk do that, and so does Tribunal, and Gladiator and Nebula make your regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill decks just that much better. All right, before we get to Sage, let's tell you quickly about the stream team. Every day we feature an absolute ton of decks. We feature at least 3 decks every single weekday and pretty much every Sunday. So we don't do gameplay here on this channel. Instead, we have our friends, some great streamers, doing gameplay. So today is Tuesday, which means at 12 p.m. Eastern, Prashant will be streaming. He's giving away a season pass on us at Snap Judgments, so make sure you check him out and on that stream have a chance to win a season pass. Tomorrow we'll be gaming with Flash X at 8 p.m. Eastern, covering tomorrow's decks. Cool. As well, this morning, at some point this morning, Gregor will have yesterday's decks in a video that you can check out. All right, next up, we got a deck because we never leave you without a deck. Maybe you're not getting the new cards and you want something cool to play. Well, this is our friend Chase Pitzer's Blinking Giants. He is, the predominant high evolutionary green giant player in the world. He's had more success with it than anyone. He builds the best versions of it. Well, he most recently put Blink into the green giants deck, and it is really strong. Blinking off Leech, Magic, or Enchantress are all extremely powerful. They can all lead you to, and hopefully will lead you to, Hulk or Infinite. There are no 5s, so if you're doing a 4, you're going to get She-Hulk, Hulk, or Infinite. Again, hopefully you don't get She-Hulk because you'd like to get one of those cards and then be able to pass and play one of the others, but there's just a ton of power to this playline. All right, you can find our friend Chase at twitter.com/ChasePitzer. He promotes really great decks and is worth a follow. Nebula for this deck can be Misty, but this kind of deck is exactly why it matters that Nebula is series dropping. You do need High Evolutionary for this list, and Blink's only real replacement is Hope Summers. I'm really sorry about that. It's the only real way to fix that in this deck. All right, so Chase is, again, the king of green giants. Turn 1, Nebula over Sunspot. Sunspot ends up getting more power, but Nebula is not really useful if you're not playing early. Again, Misty is fine for Nebula here. Turn 2, Armor, or you do one of the turn 1 plays. Turn 3, I tend to like to get Cyclops out before Magic. Turn 4 is when I'd like to Magic if I have Cyclops out. If not, you're fine going Leech. If you go Leech, you want to blink out that Leech. You can also feel free to play Magic on turn 5. You can also play Leech on turn 5 if you played Magic on turn 4. Again, Cyclops getting that extra benefit there. Or you can just pass. Passing is fine. Pass can lead to, if you played Leech on turn 4, then pass, that can lead to Blink on Leech plus She-Hulk, which is going to get you Infinite or Hulk to play with that She-Hulk, which is just a lot of power. You can also just drop Hulk here if, it's a regular game and you didn't have anything, or you can pass here. And if you end up passing here, you're going to go She-Hulk plus Hulk or Infinite on turn 7, and that's just, again, an absolute ton of power, really hard to beat if your opponent isn't ready for it. I like to feature decks that are easier to achieve in these videos, again, because, you might not be opening for these new cards, and if you're not, you should have something to play. Once again, as of yesterday's video, I said this yesterday, I think Blink is a must-have card, one of the best cards in the game. If you have Blink and High Evolutionary, you don't need any other high series cards to play this great deck. Thanks, Chase, for sharing it. Our new card, as of today, is Sage. Sage is a 3/0, Series 5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, plus 2 power for each different power among all other cards here. TLDR, we're going to know so fast if this is good. This could be the new Darkhawk in terms of power. It could be a regular 310, or it could be really, really clunky and not worth playing. There is functionally no way to tell because this is a new thing. In the right decks, if you can play this late with 3 other cards in the lane, she's going to be at least a 3/6. We're assuming your opponent has played in that lane, and as long as at least one of those cards has different power, we're 3/8, and if your opponent has 2 cards, we're at 3/10. It has 4 cards, we're at 3/14. All of that is really powerful. That's a lot of power. It seems like it'd be good. No one's ever really paid that much attention to how many different power you have on a lane before, though, right? Because you had no reason to. It's not something you thought about. The only time you really paid attention to that is if you're playing like a Cerebro deck. Obviously, Sage is not very good in Cerebro decks. But with that the case, she's going to have a lot of synergies. And if that is an easily achievable thing, if she can easily be a 310-ish card at the end of the game, she's going to be great. All right. Spotlight caches. These are spotlight variants for anyone who's determining. And I'm just going to tell you, I don't like this Sage. This is a little too green for me. But this Legion and this Tribunal are 2 of my favorite variants in the game immediately, and I'm opening extra spotlight caches to grab. The Legion with the extra hands coming out is a wonderful representation of his multiple personalities, and this is just an unreal Tribunal. And our other outside of the Thanos that you can see around now, Tribunal is our logo thing. So given that it's those 2 cards, because Snap and then Tribunal is Judgments, I must have this variant. All right, So synergies for Sage before we move on to some decks. This is a lot of power, but you need to rely at least a little bit on your opponent. It needs to be played late and preferably without priority, so it gets anything your opponent plays on the last turn. Shadow King and Cosmo may counter. She seems like she's going to like Ravona, because that makes her 2. White Widow, and move cards are going to work well, like a Jeff that you can move in to give it some extra power, or move away when it's not going to give it extra power. Seems nice. White Widow being potentially 4 power for her does seem like really nice synergy. Goblins are also nice synergy. The opponent is not likely to have 2 -3 cards there unless they happen to play Hood in a Goblin lane, in which case you're in pretty damn good shape anyway. But that's an extra +2 power for Sage. In general, Junk is pretty happy here. Last turn after a Sentry, after you send a Void over, seems nice. Debris as 0-cost card seems nice. A Black Widow with a -1 seems nice, etc. Silver Surfer likes this. It's a 3-cost card. Both of these cards want to be played on the last turn, though, so maybe you need magic, or maybe you need to like really, really be able to prioritize these at the end. That could be complicated. I think Bast probably likes this, and if Bast likes this, then perhaps Bounce does too. If you start this with 3 power, it might be able to get absurdly big. It might just be your backup Hitmonkey in a Bounce deck. I could 100% see that the case. Hitmonkey and Bounce fairly often ends up like, if you just do the Mysterio Hitmonkey 1-drop, right, which happens reasonably often, 2, 4, 6, 8. So your Hitmonkey is a 3/10 at that point. That's not hard for this card to pull off, right? That's why I think this is probably pretty damn good. Because if Hitmonkey is automatically a 3/10, this should be really easy to get to about the same power as Hitmonkey, and then you've got access to like stuff like your Mysterio early, and then you've got potential Mockingbirds early, and you've got all these other things you can do. Mysterio is also, by the way, going to put 0 power stuff in a lane, and then that's pretty useful for you as well. Mr. Negative decks obviously like a 0/3. Loki decks obviously like anything that can give it power late. That Angela Elsa package. Thor and Odin seem like they'd be pretty happy here. Thor decks have 0-cost cards. You can play this with 2 hammers at the end of the game, and that's immediately going to be 6 power. You can play it in a lane that has other things, which seems pretty decent. You can end up, if you play this early, you can Odin on top of it and get it to trigger again. And then like Grandmaster and Absorbing Man for multiple triggers. That's a lot of use. I'm more and more convinced this is going to be a good card. Please hit that sub, like, and comment before we get to the decks. We bring you more decks than everyone, 7 days a week of Marvel Snap content. We cover all the news, everything you need from Marvel Snap. If you want bundle reviews, check our shorts, hit that sub. And if you're already subbed, like, comment, help us with that algorithm, and watch for as long as you can because it really does help the channel. Our first deck is, as usual, from our friend Docty. Docty is the best at evaluating new cards and has thrown Ravona into this Surfer list. This Surfer list is a Surfer Patriot list that's attempting to abuse Ravona so that Sage, Bishop, Patriot, Wolfsbane all get cheaper. Making all those cards cheaper means that even without Sarah, you can play them at the end of the game, but with Sarah, you get an absolutely insanely explosive final turn. Sage, Bishop, Patriot costing 1, Surfer costing 2. That still leaves you 1 extra energy for whatever you would like to play. A Forge, perhaps. And that's just crazy strong. If you've got a Hope in play, you can even play an extra 3. You can get your Shaw or Brood out with all these cards. I think that's really powerful. I think this deck has a lot of potential if Mobius is not super present in the meta. And Mobius has been around, but not as prevalent as he has been recently. Next up, Ankh. Ankh is a YouTube creator who does a review of cards every week. Ankh has a junk deck. I think this is a really solid junk deck. Selene messes with the cost of some things. Sage likes that. The goblins we spoke about earlier. Sentry, Debris, White Widow, Black Widow. This seems very good to me. You want a Cannonball to end the game, but hey, I've played enough Marvel Snap to realize I don't always have Cannonball to end the game, and if I don't have Cannonball to end the game, I don't always have something I'd love to do with this type of deck. Sage gives me an option for that just has enough power to steal a game sometimes. Next up, Sage Be My Valentina. This is the Noki deck. I removed Jeff, I added Sage. That's the entire difference of this list. You should have no problem getting a bunch of different costs. Kitty, Angela, Collector are all random costs. Snowguard and Quinjet are the same, but Snowguard makes a 3 and a 4, which are different costs. Elsa helps costs be different. Luke helps costs be different. And then if you get a Mobius or a Valentina card out. This is where I'm starting. I'm super excited for this list. I have thus far loved this list with Jeff. I tried Shadow King for a while. I've tried Red Guardian for a while. All of it works. This list is way better than it seems like. Noki may be meta. Leech messes this up hardcore. But if you're not getting Leech left and right, this is going to be a very, very good. All right, next up, we have Obelisk. Obelisk is our friend, a YouTube streamer who is just getting started and could use the support. Twitch streamer who's just getting started, could use the support. Go check him out. This is a spicy sage. What this is trying to do is say, I've got 1,000 different combos for this negative deck. I can do negative Professor X. I can play the 1/5 Tiger. I can do the Panther thing. I can Zola off that Sage. Just all the combos. How do you stop all these combos? If you've got Wong, and then they're going to assume you can't Panther, right? Or you're going to Panther, and then you drop a Sage, an 0/3 Sage, and then you can drop something else. That's just, you should be able to win these games, right? I think this is actually a really, really cool build, so huge props to Obelisk. This would be my second favorite of these to try thus far. Safety's Slayer Blade, a proven list. Safety has been playing a ton of Slayer Blade. Safety Blade is Marvel Snap Zone's genius deck builder. This one is sort of similar to that Surfer list we talked about earlier, except it's running, instead of Surfer, just like a good stuff package, right? It's saying if I can lock down the lane Professor X and Cannibal, I can win, but also I've just got these really good, powerful cards. Angela's way more power than her cost. Kitty, Havoc, Hope gives you the energy. Wolfsbane and Sage are both a lot of power. And if you're adding all this power, especially with Ravona, you should be able to win the game. Here's a standard old negative Sage. This is the first one I built way back when. This is a take on the old, who made this? Cozy made a negative Surfer that took over the meta for like 2 weeks, a million years ago. Well, this is a take on that. Negative Surfer plus Sage, right? Sage is an obvious fit in negative Surfer. He works if you do see negative. She works if you don't see negative, and you should be able to win a lot of games with her. This Mr. Negative list was one of the best in Snap. I'm not sure Sage actually fits here. This is Iron Lad slot, and I'm not sure Sage is better than Iron Lad. But this list has been near the top of the Infinite Ladder for multiple seasons and is a powerful list, and it's worth seeing if Sage makes it better or is just not worth the squeeze here. Phil Woodward has a Zoo deck that usually needs Bishop, right? Bishop comes out on turn 3 and does the thing you want this deck to do. Well, you can't always get that Bishop out, right? If you don't get that Bishop out on 3 and you do have Khazar on 4, then that Bishop never comes out if you have Hitmonkey. Sage sort of solves that problem. Sage says, the only thing I really want to play on 3 is Strong Guy, right? I want to go Strong Guy into Khazar, but it gives me a second Hitmonkey to end the game. You have to be a little careful with it, a little careful to make sure you're playing in things with different power, but Sage and Hitmonkey can both be played after Black Swan for just an absolutely explosive burst of power. This is, again, a deck I fully plan to try. Bounce Junk. Y'all know I love Bounce, so here's a Junk deck that plays some Bounce. We already established that Sage likes Bounce. Note that outside of Nico, the ones all cost different, although Beast and Widow are the same as Nico. This one is trying to Sage and then Werewolf. I love me some Werewolf, and I miss Werewolf by Night. Can we get Werewolf back to a 3/3 pretty please? I think that would make Sage absolutely incredible. If Werewolf were a 3/3, I'd be all about that. Den's best Zemo. This is Den's favorite style of Baron Zemo. This one wants to close on a Valkyrie with a bunch of free cards. Well, you're not always going to get that Valkyrie, right? So why not have Sage here? Sage works really well with Werewolf. You can play Sage, pull Werewolf over, it'll get that extra power, and then you can move Werewolf elsewhere, and then you should be able to win the game. Den, again, really loves this shell for Bounce, for Zemo, and I think it's really solid with Sage. This is the more another version of the same basic concept, right? Like these decks are like 2 cards apart. This one runs Kitty. I think these probably want Angela, but you get the gist at this point. That our goal here is that since we have Hitmonkey and Sage, Black Swan seems good. KXRN has a Loki deck that we talked about in Sunday's video. We talked about like all the decks that hit number 1 last season from the major players, And then we talked about what we expected to be number one this season. This deck has been awesome this season. I think Sage is great in it. Sage, again, here is a late turn play. Sage has sort of synergy with Red Guardian, too. If you hit the right target for Red Guardian, that'll be a negative power thing for Sage to take advantage of. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that this deck really just wants that extra big power burst. Finn Loki, another Loki list. Finn hit number one with this Loki a few days ago, earlier this week, Sunday-ish, I think. And why not try again? Did I just forget to put Sage in here? Whoa. Good job. Sage should be replacing Quake. That's what was meant to happen here. But apparently, I copied and pasted the wrong version. So, Sage should be in the Quake spot, but you should be able to have plenty of different power here, especially with Baron Zemo. I think Baron Zemo in particular has some decent synergy with Sage. Alright, so I think Sage is going to be better than expected. But what's unclear is how much better this is than Wolfsbane, which is a 3-7, pretty much guaranteed without any downside. Can this consistently be 3-10? Because if it's 3-10, it's enough better than Wolfsbane to play. The question is going to be if you need her, and if what we're really going to learn is that we should probably just be playing more Wolfsbane, because safety in that Slayer Blade deck does already have Wolfsbane. She's a buy for me. I think she's really good, and I think she fits into decks I like, decks that do hit monkey things, bouncy things. But, huge caveat, I'm not sure if she's worth it if that's not your playstyle. We're going to check back Friday once we've got a few decks for her. We'll have decks for her tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, right? But we're going to check back Friday so I can give you initial impressions. Thursday, we'll have some top players in the game giving you their impressions of Sage. And then Monday, I will give you a final review both in Monday's video and in a short. Cool? All right, questions of the day before we get to the other spotlight cards. Horstronaut asks, if you could wave a magic wand, what deck from Snap's past would you make tier 1? I mean, how hard could I say bounce? I also wish Thanos bounce was a thing, but I guess that can't be a thing. But bounce. It would just be bounce. I would fix bounce. I would probably put Beast back to a 3, or give Beast back his permanent ability, and I would make Kitty start as a 1-2. And I think those two things would put bounce back to tier 1, and I would be extraordinarily happy. I would also potentially make Werewolf a 3. What are some of the most overlooked or misunderstood interactions? Basically anything Supergiant or Invisible Woman do. I had Supergiant in a deck that had a bunch of ongoing stuff, and I got like 15 people asking me what Invisible Woman is there for in that Patriot deck from last week. Invisible Woman and Supergiant are basically protection cards. They were dangerous for a while because Alioth was in the game, but Alioth is, I mean, not gone, but like nowhere near the meta force or presence that it was. And with that the case, then Invisible Woman and Supergiant allow you to do a million different combos, from just protecting your stuff from Shang-Chi to sticking a Killmonger behind it when you're sick of Ultron to sticking an Absorb Man behind it, then playing a Doom at the end of the game, and so on and so forth. These cards and their combos are very overlooked and very underrated. Zelos asks for a Proving Grounds PSA, and sure, here it is. In Proving Grounds, if humanly possible, try not to play it out. Immediately fist bump at the start of Proving Grounds, and then you and your opponent should both snap, and you should play one game of Proving Grounds. If you lose Proving Grounds, you get nothing, so just get that crap over with fast and play your real games in silver. Cool. RJ Retro asks, is free to play for fun, and wonders what the ethical implications of winning a season pass as a prize are. And my advice is, I don't care. If you want to have fun, have fun. If you think it's a better challenge to never accept that season pass, that's fine. But what I really think you should do is just have 2 accounts. Have an account where you buy the season pass every month, and an account that's fully free to play. I think that way you get the best of both worlds. If you'd like your questions read out in tomorrow's video, please leave some in the comments. Alright, Tribunal. Series 5, 6,000 tokens for another month. It will be Series 4. It's a 6/9 ongoing. Split your total power evenly among all locations. Alright. Living Tribunal is fundamentally a must-have card. It opens up a bunch of decks that we're going to look at, and a bunch of variations on these decks that we're not going to look at. It is utterly and completely irreplaceable in the decks it goes in. If you have any interest in playing these decks, you must get Living Tribunal. Now, you can also get Living Tribunal for half price in terms of tokens in a month. But if you either want to play these decks sooner, or want to spend those tokens on something else, no one knows when it'll be back in spotlights, and thus it is still worth it. All right, this is the Living Tribunal Hela deck. We talked about Invisible Woman. This deck goes Invisible Woman, Modok, Hela, discards the whole board, and wins. Good. End of the game, Modok pops out, then Hela pops out. All these giant cards pop out of there, and then you win. You have Magic to help make that happen, and Jubilee and Iron to help make that happen. This is the classic version that was like originally Safety Blades, and then a bunch of other people on it. This is another version of this. This one runs Blink, and I think it's pretty damn cool because Blink gives you access to Electro. Electro will hit Jubilee, Iron Lad, or one of your big cards, ideally not Hela, and I think that's pretty damn cool. I don't know. I like that play. I like that play enough that I added this version too, even if it is very similar to the last one. That Blink Electro play just also means you don't have to go Modok Hela. You can do other combos. Negative Tribunal. This one is from the great Hela Enjoyer. Hey, Hela Enjoyer. Hope you're having a great day. Hela Enjoyer. I mean, both of these are Hela Enjoyer decks. Hela Enjoyer basically said, all right, I don't want to get blown out by Enchantress, so I need multiple things to be able to do with my Tribunal deck. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a Mr. Negative list, because if I have Mr. Negative, I can avoid playing anything, throw priority, and just win. Great. This version is blown out by Enchantress, but if you're not seeing a lot of Enchantress, this version beats most things. It is fundamentally trying to go Iron Man, Onslaught, Tribunal in one lane, but it's also perfectly fine. It can also go like Iron Man, Mystique, Tribunal, nonsense you would like to do. Cosmo can help protect your stuff in this exact version of the list. Phoenix Tribunal is the last Tribunal list, I believe. Yeah, last Tribunal list we're going to look at. This one says I can do that Iron Man Onslaught Tribunal combo if I don't get my Phoenix combo. Or I can make myself a stupidly huge Human Torch. And if I make myself a stupidly huge Human Torch, I can then protect it with Cosmo and then drop a Tribunal and spread my like 100 billion power Human Torch all over the place. Either one of those works. Super cool deck. Needs, you guessed it, Tribunal. See how like Tribunal is the key to all of these decks? They just don't exist without him. So given that's the case, again, Tribunal worth. We have Legion, a 5/7, Series 4, 3,000 tokens. On reveal, replace each other location with this one. Legion is a cube stealer. If you have not tried him, he is absolutely stellar. He is incredibly hard to beat. He has spent his time as one of the best cards in Snap. He is constantly underrated by top players because top players all know what each other are playing. If you are playing anywhere but the top, he is a cube stealer. Here are some sample decks for him. First, we have a deck that Ava changed decks, but Ava was sitting near the top of the Infinite Ladder, top 5 with this list earlier, which is fundamentally a Legion scam deck. What it's trying to do is get Legion into a Storm lane to auto-win a lane. So what you do is if you Storm on 3, you Jubilee or Omega Red on 4, then you Blink on 5 in that Storm lane, and that's going to make you a Legion. Legion pops up, floods everything immediately, and you've got Nebula, Sunspot, and Jeff to still win the game. Nocturne potentially too. You can also just Storm on 4, Legion on 5, perfectly fine, and get the win that way. Deck is wildly good. This is our friend Bohe's deck. Bohe put Legion, Revis put Legion into a Sarah Shell. This is Bohe's current version of it, which is running the new tech cards and the new Zemo package. So it's got Zemo and Gladiator, and then it's just got like Quake for location control, Sentinel, so you always have cards, Shang and Enchantress for some control, along with Killmonger and Guardian, and Legion to just steal wins. It's a really cool list, and it's got a super high win rate, so you should check this one out if you happen to grab Legion. And finally, this is just the updated version. Well, I guess this is a bouncier version of the original Sarah Control. It's using Kitty and Hope as an extra energy, thing. And then it's just sort of good cards. Legion is a good cards card, but it is a top of the line good cards card. I love Legion. I'm higher on it than most people. All right. Last Legion list is Blink 2 by Penno Nation. This is the highest ranked Legion list I found. It's not doing anything special here. It's just a good card. There is like literally Legion could be Vision, Legion could be whatever else, except that if you know you played a 4 and you might be hitting Legion, you can play certain ways, right? Like you can play on certain locations, and that seems phenomenal. You can Legion on the no ongoing location if you have Electro out, and all of a sudden you can do whatever you want. There's just a million different weird plays for Legion. You can leave one place to play when your opponent hasn't played others, and then you can doom it to win. So on so forth. Legion gives you access to a million things and is a phenomenal card. All right, Tribunal opens up a ton of decks, but series drops. But series drops. Tribunal's exact place is complicated now. I explained at the beginning of the Tribunal section if you'd like to check that out. Legion is good and underrated, but in no real deck except that one Ava deck required. It is fully replaceable by a Vision, an Arrow, a Cannonball. If you need Tribunal, I think you're free to open. I think you should just open, get Sage and Tribunal, assuming Sage or Tribunal will go in decks you play. If you have Tribunal, though, please do not open. Wait until Friday. Let's see how good Sage is. If Sage is great, I'll let you know Thursday and then Friday, and you can just grab it. Then it's not going anywhere. You won't miss weekend missions, I promise. Ooh. All right, certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Gieslam, Mentor Burnout, Cables, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, who I hope you enjoy the game more, LAB. Shoot me a message. Let's talk. Bother and Newman, Good Dog Gamer, This Is the Way, Inc., Jane Everett, J.D. McDonaldinho, Kertix Lee, The Question King, Koi Ray, Pyrophoros, The Goat Seeker, Dan Man Falcon, Doku, Philip Brakovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins. Oh no, this is an older version. I didn't copy the newer version. Oop, we're going to be missing like 3 names. I'm so sorry. Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, Juan Diego Lebed, The Bizza, X-Force V, Skippy G, Snapjudgment Season 1 League Champion, Tommy Nyquist, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, Kev Hoda, Luna Chris, Louis Antunes, Models, The Mod Supreme, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, I'm going to brutalize that name without reading it, so I'm not going to try. Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrumix, Hoot, you need to message me. Matt H, Mikey Hijinks, No Flex, Ocularis, Craig Sterry, thanks for the kind words. Pretty Damn Chill, Seamus, Spike Jones, Two Ties, who got me to Infinite this season, the Pirate King Tucker, the Homie Min, and of course Gunny T, where the T stands for I'm really sorry that I missed Rema and I missed King of Bros. I appreciate both of you. I'll make it up to you soon. All right, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that sub button. If you're interested in supporting us some more, check out the Patreon. We'll see you tomorrow where we've got, I'm pretty sure, 4 new decks for you. Peace.